Welcome to the Trailblazing Texas podcast, where we embark on a journey through our diverse Texas landscapes and breathtaking trails while always engaging with our amazing Texas hiking community. So settle in, tighten up those bootlaces, and get ready for the thrilling tales awaiting for you on this episode. Welcome to the Trailblazing Texas podcast. We have another amazing guest today. Meghan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Before we get started, Meghan is John's better half. So if you listen to episode 2, this is his lovely wife. She is a very experienced hiker, not only in Texas, but all over the United States. She has probably forgot more about hiking and backpacking than I currently know. And she is the first guest that probably for the last 4 or 5 years, we kind of had a little back and forth between Texas and Alaska about which state's better. And for some reason, it got really quiet all of a sudden once I found out she's actually from Michigan and not Alaska.
That is true. I'm from Michigan. Michigan is the great state.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I'm not going to hold that against her. And we have set a truce for this episode that we're not going to pick on each other's states, Alaska and Texas. So we're going to have a very civil conversation.
Good thing you're not from Ohio.
That's right. That's right. Because you guys have a lot of bad blood, Michigan and Ohio. But no, so I've known Meghan for, about 5 or 6 years?
Yeah.
We've had some hiking trips together in Texas with her and John, and then we've had some hiking trips up in Washington where she resides. So as we get started, and really to the listeners, we're going to kind of go through some of our Texas experiences, probably this first 30 minutes to an hour. And then we're going to jump into some very, very, very neat hiking experiences that she's had up in Washington, California. She's a PCT through hiker. I think she's got a couple 100 miles to complete it. She's hiked some very dangerous traverses, and I can't pronounce the traverse, but
Ptarmigan?
Ptarmigan, yes. She's done Angel's Landing, tons of hikes in Mount Rainier. So she's a very experienced person, and I wanted to take the opportunity that the majority of this podcast episode is to give our listeners who, are probably mostly in Texas, just some information and some of your experiences about some of the pretty stuff and the dangerous stuff that you've done up there in Washington.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So just to let the listener know how we met, and I think I touched on it in episode 1 with Lori, and then again in episode 2 with your husband, John. The second trip that Lori and I had to Guadalupe, we were heading up Tejas. We were going to go bag Hunter's Peak. And I had just finished recording Lori, and she didn't know that I was recording, say that she hated me. And we were up on Tejas, and we were looking down, and we saw these 3 little ants on the trail heading up to us. And we were laughing like, wow, I can't believe that we've, come this far, but also like, look at those little people. There's no way they're going to be able to catch us. And at that moment, neither one of us were very experienced hikers. And so we were probably taking a break about every 5 minutes, and probably 2 breaks from the time we saw you, you guys had already caught us and passed us. And, so we said, hey, what's going on? And then right after you passed us, you guys took a break. We caught up with you. And then that's when we actually started talking, and we ended up hiking together up to Hunter's Peak. So just kind of talk about what was your thoughts when you, because being an experienced hiker like yourself, like what was your thoughts when you came into Texas, Guadalupe Mountains, and Texas High Point, and some of those things?
Oh yeah, Texas was great. I had never been anywhere like that, but John, my husband, had grown up there, so he got to show me Midland, Odessa area where he grew up, and then we at Guadalupe, it was really deserty, beautiful. Cactuses are always kind of novel to me, and tumbleweeds are, I'm like, I love them
Yeah,
because I only ever saw them on TV as like a little kid with the like roadrunner thing. And so every time I see a tumbleweed, I like crack up laughing, and John is like, "What is wrong with you?" But I really like the cactuses and and just like the all that stuff is really novel to me. And El Capitan is iconic at Guadalupe, of course. Like that scene, I had been
yeah.
really wanting to see that.
So, was it something that you've experienced before at that time, like the desert kind of thing and desert mountains, or
Yeah. It had similarities to the southern part of the PCT,
yeah,
um, but it wasn't exactly the same. And the PCT is more um, grad. Guadalupe Mountains was more like climbing up peaks, and then there wasn't any woods around really, or
yeah,
not as much. So
yeah.
yeah,
Okay. And
different in that
so, what were y'all doing that day? It looked like
one.
heading up Tejas, and then or all of us, went up to
Mhm,
Hunters, and
mhm.
that's where John taught us all how to do the panoramic photo where you're at both bookends.
The
I still
famous
use that
photo.
today, and people are
Yeah.
like, "How do you do that?" Um, you guys went
Yeah.
on and did the bowl,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
believe, and if I remember correctly, you guys asked us if we wanted to accompany, and Lori was like, "Heck no!" She was done hiking. She just wanted to get down.
That's funny. Yeah, we had a few different things planned for that trip, and I actually had the flu. We had bought
Oh
and
man,
plane. We had plane tickets to go down there, and then we were going to meet our friend Mike from. He was flying from LA, and since we had already bought the tickets, John got the flu, and then he was getting over it, but I had just got it from him, and this was like pre-COVID, obviously.
yeah,
And we flew down there, and so we started out our plans that we had a little bit late because the first day I tried to hike and I was like, not couldn't do it, and then I hiked Guadalupe Peak with a bottle of Dayquil
oh my
in the top of
gosh,
my pack, and a thing of Kleenexes. And then I think when we met you was after that.
yeah,
So we were kind of bouncing around different things, but we had different. Our plans got a little bit rearranged.
yeah. And I think what I take from that trip, and John and I talked about it in episode number 2, was, you know, the day that I met you guys was the night that he found out his mom had cancer. And
Yeah,
you don't really have good, well,
yeah,
back then you don't really. Now it's at Pine Springs you're usually okay, but back then you're very lucky to ever get a cell service, and he got the text, and then
hmm,
and was able to make the call and found out um that she had cancer, and I believe it was for the
yeah,
second time. She beat it the first time, and
yeah. I think it was the second or third time.
yeah,
And she the message that we got was that she had a lump, and she thought it was on her spine. It wasn't, but she could feel it on her back.
yeah,
And yeah, it was really scary because we didn't know yet. It did turn out that it was cancer, but we just knew that she had a lump and she had to have it looked at. And yeah, it was really um well, in the moment scary, but then like looking back at it, it was also kind of like life changing in a way, like because it ended up being a big
yeah,
thing that our family went through, and that was the start of it.
yeah. And knowing John for 6 years and yourself 5, 6 years,
Hmm.
and every time that we're together, we always have stories about his mom, and they're
Mhm.
classics. Like there's very few people in the world that I sit and say, man, I wish I would have met them, and she's one of them, one of about
Yeah.
five. And
Yeah.
you know, just the stories that you guys would tell about her passion for hiking and backpacking, um,
Yeah.
her being out in a hurricane force storm and
That's
calling
ridiculous.
John and saying, I'm trapped. And he's like, you knew the storm was coming. Why did you go out? So, so what was John's mom like?
So she was very blunt and direct would be two good words to describe her.
Yeah.
Um, she was very particular in her ways, and she was very devoted. She was one of the most devoted people. I remember we went once. I went on a hike with her and one of her friends, and we left at like 3:30 in the morning, and it was not summer. Like it was not going to get hot.
Yeah.
It rained the whole way there. We were like hydroplaning on the road, which was pretty scary. And then we hiked the whole. It poured rain the whole time, and they're like all. There was they loved it, and I was like, this is not. I'm a fair weather outdoors person. I mean, I've done a lot of things in a lot of inclement weather. Like I can do it, but like
Yeah.
on a Saturday morning, I if it's pouring rain, I probably will stand. But yeah, and yeah, so she was very she liked to be early, like
Yeah.
like the first one at the trailhead early,
Yeah.
and she liked to go fast, especially downhill. Um, and she was very she was very memorable personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
J- I remember you have to tell us the one story about the
Uh-huh.
backpack.
Yeah. John John mentioned she so Marilyn had before I met her had lost weight, and I don't think she was ever very heavy, but she went from being like a normal size to being quite thin.
Yeah.
And I was only dating John for maybe a month or
Yeah.
so, and then that range, and we went on a hike, and she had this pack that she was convinced that well I didn't okay so she gave John the pack. I didn't know anything about it, and John's like, oh, here, I have a day pack because I didn't have one with me. I just had my big pack, and so he's like, here, just use this day pack. I came from my mom. I'm like, oh, cool, whatever. So I'm standing there wearing this pack, and we're taking a break, and she goes, I'm really glad that pack fits you because I used to wear it, but now I lost weight and now I can't wear it anymore. He said that to me. I was like, thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
that
like,
was,
and just
yeah.
talking to you guys over the years, and just hearing these stories about her, like John and the episode that we had with him, it's 100 and something degrees. She's
Hmm.
just out climb them, out hike them
Oh
to the
yeah,
peak. It's,
yeah.
100 and something degrees. And then he's sitting there and she had that hiking partner. She
Hmm.
was older than both of their ages combined. And,
Oh yeah,
she's, out hiking them. Uh,
yeah.
Pictures of her and John, at Longmire and Rainier sitting on that porch.
Hmm.
Just some of
Yeah,
those things that always stick out to me. But yeah,
yeah,
that's one of the very few people, even out of famous people,
yeah,
like, yeah, that's one of the few that I always wish that I would have met for sure.
yeah. Once we during her cancer treatment, she was about to get surgery. It was when we still weren't for sure it was cancer, but she definitely had a growth of some sort,
Yeah.
and she was just about to have surgery, and she's like, I want to go on one hike before, but it was like November. It wasn't very nice out, and so we went to the state park in Tumwater called Miller, Sylvania, and it's pretty flat. There's like a lake. It's not um but the way the trails are, it's kind of like a different circles, and then there's little maps everywhere that say you are here at all the junctions, and it
Right.
meets up in all kinds of different places. We got so lost in this little tiny flat state park in Tumwater. um and
Was
we
John with
were
you?
no, just Marilyn and I.
Oh, that was
And
nice.
yeah, And
She's
we
like, please
were
don't tell John.
yeah, we were embarrassed of how lost, because I told her I've never got this lost on the whole Pacific Crest Trail. Like I've never been. I have no idea where we are right now, and didn't know how to get back to our car, but we were both embarrassed. So on our way out, we were like corroborating our story. So don't tell John that we got. Don't tell anyone, because I'm gonna tarnish our image that we got
Ay, ay, ay.
lost. But
Hey,
it
but
was
at
really
least
funny.
you didn't have
Yeah,
to call for rescue, and you
we
were
did
able
it.
to
Yeah.
work it out.
We could.
Uh,
There wasn't many hazards. We could have made it a long time, but we just didn't know where we were.
but did you tell John beforehand where you were going and when
Yes.
you should be back?
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone knew where it was. A small park, and it was not far from town. But yes, everyone knew where we were. So
Yeah, nice.
yeah.
All right, so now kind of going on to our second trip.
Mhm.
Somehow I talked you guys into coming back to Texas, and I had a quest to hike the I think at that time it was all the named peaks in the park, but then it grew to all the 10 highest peaks in Texas,
Mhm.
and we were going to do the quad, so your Guadalupe Peak, Shumard, uh, Bartlett, and then Bush, and we were gonna hike out to Bush because it seemed like a
Mhm.
better route to go, kind of the reverse than what I eventually did it in. So heading out, camping at Bush, and then the next day getting up early and hitting Bartlett, Shumard, and Guadalupe. And
Mhm.
we had to cancel that because the winds were crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
The wind.
yeah, and so when we when we first set up camp at Pine Springs, you guys had that Four Seasons monstrosity, and I had that little $80 gear top, backpacking tent with a
Yeah.
trekking pole. And I think I even told this story in John's episode, where we discussed it, that
Uh-huh.
that one night when the wind was hitting, so anyway, the weather wasn't going to be good, so we canceled the quad, and we did Bush and did some other
Mhm.
things. So one of the nights, the wind was just blowing through the campsite. It had to be 50, 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And there was one time that the you could hear the wind was coming. It sounded like a freight train, and it hit my tent, and I thought it exploded it, and then it hit y'all's tent. And I don't remember if it was you or John, one of y'all, right after it happened, you said, Jason, are you okay? And I think John said, I just knew you were getting out of your tent and coming into our tent,
Yeah.
because
I'm surprised you didn't.
yeah, because that was crazy.
Yeah.
So so the hike that we had, and when we did Bush Mountain, like, what was
Mhm.
what was that experience like for you?
It was really beautiful. It was a long day.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
yeah, but I liked at the very end how you could kind of overlook that whole I guess it's not a valley, but over the edge of the kind of the cliff there that you're on. That was
Hmm.
really neat. And you could see so far, which was cool. There's a junction I remember kind of towards the campground, towards the front of the hike, where there was fossils of like seashells and stuff up
Yeah.
there, which was like
Yeah.
amazing. That was easily one of the coolest things I've ever seen on a hike. Like that
Yeah.
was really, to be able to sit in the desert and hang on to that and look around you and just imagine the history of that space was amazing.
Yeah. And to the listeners, if you don't know, Guadalupe is a prehistoric reef. So, there's a Permian reef trail that has it's got like 30 or 40 little sites of the different fossils and stuff. And just normally hiking, you're seeing fossils and stuff throughout, all over the trails, all in the rocks.
Mhm.
So it's actually, if you're into the fossils and that type of stuff, that's your park. That
Yeah, yeah.
hike, I don't know if it's because I've blocked out a lot of it because John was yelling at us the whole time.
John and
Uh,
his yelling.
God, like, we couldn't take a break. We were hiking too slow.
Eating too many snacks.
Eating too many snacks. Like, I remember when we got to Bush, we were kind of just sitting there, and John never sat down. He's just kind of walking in circles.
Just marches around us.
Yeah, and we're I've got 2 bites into my Cliff Bar, and he's like, "All right, you ready?" I'm like, no, I just sat down." And he goes, "Ah, we're gonna get cold. We gotta go." I'm like, "Bro, this is Texas. We're not gonna freeze. This isn't like the Pacific Northwest. This isn't like Rainier, the Tarman Traverse. It's not like
Yeah.
that. It's just, but yeah, it's and to the listeners, we are kind of joking, but this is something that we always joke around with John about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So outside of that, I don't
Uh-huh.
remember what other hikes that we did. I know the next day, John, you were gonna go.
Oh yeah.
You were heading out
Oh.
to drive to the not campsite, but the rest stop in front of El
Mhm.
Capitan to see the sunrise. And
Yeah.
John and I were gonna hike up and bag El Capitan Peak,
Mhm.
and I guess John wasn't feeling good, and we got all the way through the really crappy part of Guadalupe Peak Trail. So it's the very first 3/4 of a mile, and he decided to
Mhm.
get sick and start throwing up.
Yeah.
And like, so I'm of course worried, like hoping that he's okay. But I'm like, man, could you have not gotten sick before we started the hard part, and we just finished it, and now you're getting sick?
Then you had to yell at John.
Yes. Oh, I yelled at him.
While
It,
he's throwing up.
Yeah, I was like, I almost said, "You mean hold your hair," but he doesn't have any
Yeah.
hair.
He
So
does. Would be an
no,
easy
that was
job.
yeah,
Mhm.
he felt really bad, and that it actually was
Yeah.
kind of scary. And I'm glad that we were not too invested into the hike. We were maybe just right past kind of the most difficult part, but not too far into the hike. And and he was actually kind of stood back up and was like, I think I can go forward, because he knew
Yeah.
bagging El Capitan Peak meant a lot to me. And I was like, absolutely not. We're turning around. We're gonna go watch the sunrise
I
with
think he
Megan.
probably,
And
yeah, he got that from his mother. Keep
yes,
going.
keep going
Perseverance.
no matter what.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
any other trips and any other hiking trips that you've had into Texas?
In 2016 we went to Big Bend together.
How was
Um,
that?
it was really neat. We were there right around Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I loved it. That was my very first time ever to Texas, and I really loved it. It was really beautiful, and I loved the Chisos Mountains. And there's a lot of Big Bend that I'd love to go back and get to do. But yeah, it
So
was
what hikes did y'all do
beautiful.
there?
The one I remember specifically was the window.
Okay, so right in the Chisos Mountains.
Yeah. There's another that was kind of like a bowl, and there was these kind of low mountains around it. It's probably like maybe, I don't know how high, 800 feet.
Yeah.
Maybe not. No, maybe not. That might be way off. But John decided to be like rock climbing around on all those.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's just showing off in front of you.
Yeah. I remember that one specifically. But yeah, that I love that park was definitely something I feel like I got to like dip my toe in, but I didn't get to dive in all the way.
So how did you like the window trail? Because
Um,
that's actually one of the most popular, I believe, trails in the park. It's very accessible, and you don't need to be in too good a shape. I think there's one
yeah.
part where you got to do a little scrambling to actually get down and across this little river that kind of runs
Mhm.
through. But yeah, for the most part, it's pretty accessible to everybody.
Yeah, it was great. And the view, we went for sunset, and so
Oh
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
really neat to get to see that over out the little slot window. And then so at this point, I think we'd been dating about 6 months, and we hiked down there together, watched the sunset, and we're coming back up. And John got kind of like awkward all of a sudden, like, "Hey, what's been your favorite part of the trip?" And like, I was like, "What the heck?" But I'm like, "Okay." So we were just talking about different parts of the trip that we like, and um, kept talking, and we made it up to the top of the trail. It kind of like you climb up and it spits you out in the parking lot.
Right.
And as soon as his feet hit the pavement, he turned around and goes, "Did you see that?" And I was like, "Was it a tarantula?" Because I'm terrified of spiders. I thought he saw a tarantula. And he goes, "No, it was worse." And I was like, "Two tarantulas? Like, what could be worse than seeing a tarantula?" But there was actually a big mountain lion when we were
What?
walking back. I didn't see it, but it was when we were coming out of the window, and we were coming back into the forest up towards the parking lot, and he saw the eyes of this mountain lion, and then it kind of turned and walked, and he saw how big it was, and so he wanted to keep talking to me so that it would just be aware of us, I guess, just so we're making noise. But he didn't want to freak me out, so I didn't know that it was there at all until we got to the parking lot, and I thought that the worst thing that I could run into was a tarantula.
Wow. That's my dream, my bucket list for Guadalupe
Yeah.
Mountains is to see a mountain lion. The guy that I hike with mostly now, Henning, yeah, he was a Marine sniper and he has like a spotting scope, like just, the
Oh,
scope.
okay.
And we
Mhm.
want to go sit out where Mr. Barry was lost because that's where all the mountain lions are, as per the
Mhm.
park rangers when they rescued him.
Oh,
And
okay.
just sit out there on one of the hilltops for a
Mhm.
day and a night and just, dusk and dawn and,
Yeah.
and try to see if we can see one just running around. But
Yeah.
so what do
That's
you think
cool.
you would have done if he would have said, "Hey,
Oh.
look ahead, there's a mountain lion."
Um, Probably the same thing he did, just try to talk to each other and keep walking. I mean, I don't think I would have freaked out because I don't I mean, definitely scared of mountain lions, but I have a lot of time living by moose and bears and like large animals, and think I would have been okay, but I don't know.
Would you have
Uh
pushed John in front of you?
Maybe.
Yeah.
If he only
Let
if he yelled at me.
let's see if
Yeah.
this Texas boy can
Yeah.
handle some wildlife.
Yeah. But no, I think I would have done the same that he did and just kept talking. And I've never seen a mountain lion either on hiking, but I'm sure they've seen me. But I've been around a lot of people who are like, "Oh, I just saw one and whatnot." But yeah, it would be a
And
scary.
I'm sure as it walked away, it was watching you. Like,
Oh
y'all
yeah,
you pass and
yeah,
wow,
yeah. That's what they do.
how lucky.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and 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 if
Fortunately,
you
it didn't
think about
approach
it,
us, but
yeah, I mean, we could Google mountain lion attacks in Texas, and I think maybe there's one or two since the 18 whatever.
yeah,
So they're
yeah.
around, but they're not messing with you. And I
That's
think
not.
the last one happened at Big Bend, if I remember
Mhm.
correctly, in a parking lot, and it was like it went after a little kid, but it was because the
Mhm.
mountain lion was sick, so it wasn't
Yeah.
in its right head or thought.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, any other parks that you've been to in Texas?
Oh, Fort Davis. I went
Oh
there
wow, how'd you like that?
briefly. It was really neat. It was a place that was is really special to John because it's a place that he visited a lot as a kid and where he first went camping and hiking in the mountains. And so just getting to see him experience it again as an adult and like, oh, I remember this and I remember my uncle and I remember, it was
Yeah.
really cool. And we did a little hike. It's quite steep. We did a little hike um, up the bowl there. And yeah, it was really neat.
So was it pretty emotional for him to kind of go back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of gave him some space, and he gave me his camera, and so he was hiking up, and I took some photos of him as he was hiking, and I think that the one photo I took from that day is his profile picture on Instagram,
Oh, okay. Oh,
and
the
has
the
been for
silhouette.
like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it's a picture of him walking up the side of the mountain or
Okay.
up that little trail there. Yeah.
All right. So overall
Neat.
score 1 out of 10. How do you rate your Texas hiking experience?
A 10. It's very cool. It's very unique to the other states I've been to, and yeah, I really enjoy it. It's a cool state. I would
Well,
love to come back some more, especially Guadalupe is great. Big Bend, there's so much of Big Bend that I haven't gotten to explore yet.
well, since you answered that in a
Yeah.
very positive way, we will keep going with the podcast.
Okay.
All right, Megan. So
Mhm.
we'll start to close out the Texas portion, and I really want to
Okay.
dive into all the other wonderful things that you've accomplished. But like, just to step back, like
Mhm.
you were in Michigan, I'm sure, like as a kid,
Yeah.
I'm sure
Mhm.
maybe you didn't hike. Did you hike back then in
No,
Michigan? No, no. So
I.
you guys moved to Alaska, and I
Mhm.
guess is that where it kind of kicked off? Like, how did you start getting into this hiking, backpacking,
Yeah,
and
I was always an outside kid in Michigan, and a lot of kayaking, swimming in the lake, riding bikes. I was always outside, but I didn't. We weren't big hikers. And then when I moved to Alaska, I was 18, and I was doing my bachelor's in anthropology at University of Alaska Anchorage,
hmm
and I they were having a summer college job fair. Alaska State Parks was there, and I was like, "Oh, neat! Alaska State Parks, cool." And so I went and got their information, and it was for trail crew, and I had absolutely no idea what trail crew.
so what?
I thought,
I don't
yeah.
even know either. What is trail crew?
So trail crew
It's like
is
a
you
cool thing that they sucker you into, and
cool, yeah.
then
Um, Trail crew is so this is my naive self thought like, oh, I'll just go like walk on the trails, and if there's a stick, I'll like move it, and it'll be out of the way. And but what it actually is you rebuild sometimes the trails, or if so, shoveling a lot. It's a lot of shoveling. If a tree falls down, you can be part of helping clean up the tree off the trail. Sometimes you build bridges over backcountry water crossings. So I wasn't on this trail crew, but a different trail crew had helicopters fly in lumber to like Chugach State Park is enormous, and they flew in lumber way back, and the trail crew all built a bridge over this big river crossing together, which was really neat.
so
The
when you
specific,
applied, but when you
yeah,
applied for trail crew, did the person giggle a little bit because
yeah.
like you didn't know what you were getting into, but they did?
Mostly because when I went to my interview, I wasn't gonna share this, but I'll just go for it. I went to my interview wearing dress clothes and high heels. I thought, oh, I want to look really nice, and they
And
were like, oh,
professional, and
good heavens, yeah. So I did. I looked very professional, but I didn't wasn't dressed for the job. Um,
so when did it
so
hit you that what you were getting into?
um,
Like
well,
day one, you're
the
like, "Oh,
first
here's
day,
a shovel and some gloves."
yeah, they gave me. Well, I had to go get work boots, and you get out there, and they give you the little kind of like an park ranger suit, like the green pants and stuff. And then we're shoveling, and it was like hard, that's hard work, like manual labor. And I'm like, what the heck? And then this my friend Sean, I'm still close friends with him. He was my trail crew leader. He I kind of said something like, this is really difficult, and he was like, oh, it won't be like this every day. And I was like, oh, okay, like I can do this for one day. And thankfully I believed him. And for long enough I thought, oh, it's only going to be like this at the beginning, and then it's going to get way better. And it was like that the whole time. But I thankfully I got used to it, and it started to really grow on me. And so yeah, but
And
the first day was a little shock.
so when you were hired and joined the
Hmm.
trail crew, were you at a specific state park, or were they sending you guys out to wherever there was needed?
I was at Chugach State Park specifically, which is in the Anchorage area.
And
Um,
so did you live on site, or did you just go to home back home and back to
yeah,
work and home and
well, I went back home.
yep.
We had like we'd go to the state park shop every morning, and then we all had vans. There was 3 or 4 different crews of like about five kids, and then a leader. and so each crew had their own van, and so then we'd take the van to the trail, and at the sometimes we would go out on different hikes and like clear the trail, go out there with like snippers and stuff, and like, and then there was this one project on the South Fork Eagle River Trail where they were rerouting the trail to make it more sustainable for the watershed, and they hired a company to come in and kind of do that, but the company made it like it was like a 4 foot wide trail. It was kind of more like a fire trail or something. So our main thing that we did that summer was rehab that trail. So we would take it from 4 feet wide to about 16 inches wide, and we would take all the big rocks out and then kind of rehab the edges that we wanted to grow back, and then we graded the actual trail so that when water came to the one side of it, it would run on a slight grade down and just run off the other side and when it collect,
Oh, wow.
so that people could use it more.
So through
And then
the whole summer was this kind of hard stuff. It never stopped.
no, that was the job.
Did you
We
last the
did.
whole summer?
I did, yeah. There was 2 girls on every trail crew, but on my crew, the other girl quit in like the first week,
Oh,
and
wow.
so then it was just me. But the guys that I was with were wonderful, and Sean specifically, I'm still friends with. And yeah, we all had great memories and a good time, and
So when you go back to Alaska to visit your family, do you ever go to the state park and show John or go visit the
yeah.
trails that you rehabbed?
I did take him once to South Fork Eagle River when he very first came to Alaska. We went up there, and it was pretty cool to get to do that again with him. And I don't think I've done that trail since. So it's probably been since 2015 that I've been this. I've been almost 10 years since I've been up there, but it's kind of far out a little bit. It's not. It's a little off the beaten path. But yeah, I
Yeah.
do love to go there. I'd love to go there again sometime. If you and Lori ever come up to Alaska, we'll take you
Oh,
out there.
all right, that's a deal.
Yeah.
So the trail crew didn't scare you away from hiking or backpacking? Maybe did it kind of like, wow,
It kind of
trails,
did.
this is kind of fun, watching people hike and have a good time. Like, so
Yeah.
at this moment, are you into hiking and backpacking yet, or is there like,
I was like slowly falling in love with it, I guess, but kind of with a lot of reservation. I but I one of the things that we so for part of the summer we'd work 4 days a week, and then for the other part of the summer we'd work 7 days on, 7 days off.
hmm
And for one of those 7 days on, we did camp in the backcountry for 7 days, and that was my first time camping. But I didn't have a backpack, and I didn't know how to set up a tent. I didn't know anything what I was doing, and
were you working or was
yeah,
yeah, okay.
yeah, we were out there to work on a trail, but it was just too far. It was too far from the trailhead to make it efficient to be hiking in and out every day. So they
Mm.
just sent us all out there for a week. Um,
So whose gear did you use?
well, I used I have a picture of this. I borrowed a backpack from one of the guys on my trail crew who was about 6'3", and I'm 5'4". So,
So the back of the
um,
backpack's hitting you in the back of the
yeah, it was
head.
back
It's loose on the
then.
shoulders.
Yeah. So I look like I'm ready for a trip around the world in this photo, in my green state park pants and this giant backpack.
Oh
And then
gosh.
after that trip, I thought I really need to buy my own backpack. So I saved up my money and I went to REI and I picked out a 30-liter backpack because my friends, I was making more friends and that were involved in this kind of thing, and I was like, I don't want to go camping ever. And so if I buy a 30-liter backpack, when they invite me to go overnight, I'll be like, oh shoot, I can't. I only have a 30. I can only go for the day.
Yeah.
That was my
Okay.
plan. And we
All
still
right.
have that 30-liter pack. It's a good one, but um, yeah, so I was a little bit like I was like slowly but hesitantly it was growing on me, but I definitely wasn't all in from the beginning,
So how
I
was
guess.
the 7-day camp? Like, you got a
Um,
backpack, you have, I
mhm.
guess, some gear, and you get
Yeah.
out to the campsite. And was it tough getting out there? Did you start to enjoy it? Did you hate it? Like,
No, I enjoyed it. There was some good like camaraderie because we all ate dinner together. We all
mhm,
ate like we had went to Costco and we'd all make like soup or something, like those Bear Creek soups or something for dinner.
no,
So yeah, it was fun being out there, but sometimes one thing I remember is the water was so cold, like to do the dishes and stuff, or just get water from the um because there was just a river, and I just
mhm,
remember how cold the water was. And it
yeah.
was like to wash your if you tried to wash your dish, it would just everything, all the food in it would just turn to gel instantly because the water was so cold. But no, it was
So what
pretty out there, and yeah.
what are the temperatures? This so it's summer camp.
Yeah,
What are the temperatures in Alaska?
in the summer it was probably in the 60s during the day. So
Mhm,
it wasn't, and then 40s, 50s at night, probably 50. I don't remember being cold like sleeping or anything.
yeah.
But there was just the water that was running through was fresh snow melt. That's why
Oh,
it was so
okay.
cold. Yeah.
All
There's
right.
a small river. Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
summer's coming to an end, and
Yeah.
are you finishing college? You're still in college?
Yeah, I was still in college. I did um one or two I still had a year or two left of college.
Yeah.
And then the next summer I also worked for the state park, but I did I helped with the maintenance. So I like painted an outhouse, and I would refill the campground hosts with like their supplies that they need, which was also really different, but it was also really fun. And then I had read that book Wild about the Pacific Crest Trail, and I kind of something about trail crew that I'd really had become meaningful to me was like land conservation and like making a trail that's accessible but like doesn't interfere with the wilderness, I
Right.
guess. So like sustainable, like where the water's not collecting on it and it's making big puddles, and then because then people start walking around and it just gets bigger and bigger. Appreciation for public lands, I guess. And so I had heard of the Pacific Crest Trail, and I thought, wow, like that'd be cool to go to get, because I had never been to California, Oregon, or Washington. And I thought, wow, like what an experience to get to do something like that one day. Like that would be really amazing to go see that a trail like that. Like,
And so when you started getting the bug, this
uh
was
huh,
after the second summer with the state park?
probably,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I would go on small hikes here and there, but yeah, probably after that second summer,
And
I
then
would say.
so what made you
Um,
say and at that moment,
yeah,
just looking at your stories,
uh-huh.
this was before, the Texas hiking and stuff that we were
Oh
talking about.
yeah,
You didn't have a
yeah,
lot of experience, and
yeah.
you had no reservations about hiking one of the longest trails in the United States?
Well, sometimes when you don't have a lot of experience, you also don't have a lot of you have a lot of naivete, so you don't really know what you don't know,
Yeah.
I guess. But
Okay, so you're
and
sitting
yes,
there and
okay.
and you're at
Yeah.
the dinner table and you're like, "Mom, Dad, I'm gonna see you in about 6
So
months." Like,
what
what
happened?
yeah, tell me how did this come about?
I was out at dinner with a friend that we both waited tables together, and we were having dinner and a beer at Moose's Tooth in Anchorage. And I think one other time we had the same friend group. And another time the Pacific Crest Trail came up, and we were both like, I want to do that someday. And so then I was about to graduate that year. He had ability to be gone for a summer if he needed to. And so we were having dinner, and uh, he was like, "Well, I'll do it if you do it." And I was like, "Okay, I'll do it if you do it." And it was
And
kind of like this bet.
but was it like, did you really think you were doing it, or you think y'all were just like joking with each other?
I think it was kind of like chicken. It
Yeah.
was like, "Are we? I don't know.
And
What
nobody
are we
turned.
doing?"
Y'all just
Nobody. Yeah, it was exactly. Yeah, we didn't really know we were doing it, but
okay. And at
chicken.
that
Yeah.
moment, do you have any gear outside of a 30-liter backpack?
I think I bought a sleeping bag. a 30 degree synthetic sleeping bag, and that might have been my only gear. I'm not
All right. So what
so.
point did you
Oh,
say this is really happening? Like, okay, you
um,
guys are joking back and forth. You're
yeah,
fixing to graduate, and
yeah.
then
I mean, I kind of well, right from the onset, I was kind of serious about it. I didn't know if it would
yeah,
actually all work out, but at Christmas time, I don't remember exactly when the dinner was, like on the calendar,
yeah.
but at Christmas time is when I told my parents, like, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this," and they were not fans, um, for the most part. And then after that, from Christmas on, I kind of started to prepare by way of shopping at REI, not like training or anything,
But
but
when you're shopping, like
yeah.
you just go in there and say, "Here's my credit card. I want to hike the PCT. Hook me
Um,
up." Like,
this this was in 2014, so it was like the heyday of blogs,
yeah.
and Facebook was still the thing. Um, and so I was in a Facebook group called PCT Class of 2014, and then there was a handful of blogs that people were writing that they were also getting ready. And so I was just like, I should have been doing my last semester of college homework, and which I did do, I did finish, but
Yeah.
I in the time that I should have spent more wisely doing that, I was just like voraciously reading these other PCT hikers blogs. Like, what are they getting? Who's making the maps? Like, what kind of shoes do you need? And how? Because you go through shoes, so you're gonna need a handful of pairs. And then so I was just kind of like teaching myself all this stuff by scouring the internet and then trying to put together my um and my friend's sister had hiked the John Muir Trail before, so had a little bit of advice and experience. And I was renting a room at that time, and my um landlady, that I sort of lived with, she had a friend that had hiked the PCT like in the 80s, and I got to meet him, and so that was really
Oh
awesome.
wow.
Yeah. And oh, actually, that would be a good answer to that question. I met him, and it was at a Christmas party at our house. She was old. She was retired. So her friends were all older than me, and I told him, "Oh yeah, I'm thinking about hiking the Pacific Crest Trail this summer, but I'm not sure, like if it's actually going to happen." And he's just like, "It will be the most zen thing you've ever experienced. You have to do it. Like if you have a chance, make it happen. You'll never regret it." And then I was like, "Okay, like sold. I'm doing it."
Mhm.
And he lives in, well, I don't know where he lives now, but at the time he lived in Bend, Oregon, and he came and met me with a bunch of like fruit and stuff, which was really kind of him.
Oh,
And I
while
got to see him.
when you were on the
Yeah,
trail?
I got to see him while I was on the trail, so it was kind of neat. And I was like, "Thank you so much for motivating. Like you inspired me." And he was like, "Well, I haven't done a single thing. You walked here, not me."
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah. So um, that was a big moment, getting to meet someone else who had actually done it and
Was it kinda
advised me.
tearful whenever you saw him in Oregon?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was really special that because it was quite a drive. I think it might have been over an hour for him to drive to come meet me, and so that was really meant a lot to me that he went that far out of his way. Yeah.
All right, so you went to
Uh,
REI, you spent a lot of
mhm.
money, you got some gear,
Yeah.
probably not all ultralight, but hey, we
No.
don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully you have the right leader backpack at this moment.
Yeah.
Does leading up to this, does friend X,
Uh-huh.
does he have hiking and backpacking experience? Or is he kinda
Um.
like you, like, maybe
Well,
doesn't really know what he's getting into and let's just do it?
he might have had a little bit more than me,
Yeah.
but I don't remember specifically if he had had a lot. We definitely were both not prepared.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say, yeah. We were in some ways very, very over prepared, and in the sense of lightweight, we were very, like we
Yeah.
just had way too much stuff. Yeah.
So you're still in school, you're
Mhm.
graduating. When did you
Mhm.
start the PCT?
May 12th.
So that's a little late, huh?
You can start early April. Um,
So were
and
you behind
so
the bubble?
yeah, when we got
Yeah.
there was hardly anyone else.
So it
Which
was
was
just you
just
and your friend.
yeah, which was a little bit of a shock. And also, like, part of the thing that I was really after was like the experience of the socializing, and that was very absent at the beginning. um and I remember the first time I met another girl that was hiking, I was like, oh my gosh, another girl, because there was only like a handful of people there, and so obviously
So were you northbound, southbound?
northbound. Yeah.
How'd you get so okay,
um
so you
okay.
went down to Mexico or
Mhm.
the border,
The
and then
border. Uh-huh.
how'd you get down there?
We flew from Anchorage to San Diego,
Right?
and then it was an overnight flight because we were 23 and poor, and
Yeah.
and we already spent all the little money that we did have at REI. So we got to the San Diego airport, but I don't think we had an excellent plan for how to get to Campo. But we had all our stuff, and so we ran into this guy at the airport who was a volunteer. I think he was retired. He was a volunteer at the airport. And he could tell what we were, he was familiar with the PCT. And so he offered to drive us, which was amazing. And so he gave us a ride from San Diego to Campo, which
Wow.
was really super
How far
fortunate
was
that
that?
I
Like about an
it's
hour drive, 2
yeah, it's got
hours?
to be at
Yeah.
least an hour. I don't think it's 2 hours, but it's at least one.
All
So
right, so you get into San
yeah.
Diego, and I guess you're
Hmm.
not heading there right. Like, do you rest and then
No,
okay,
no, we
tomorrow
went.
morning?
No, we went straight there. So we did an overnight flight, and then we found this person to drive us to the border. And then he dropped us off, and then I think we hiked like 3 miles or 4 miles, and then we camped. Um,
All right, so you get dropped off, he
mhm,
leaves, and it's just
mhm,
you and friend X
mhm.
just standing
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
and you're looking north at 2,000 and whatever miles
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Are you starting to feel sick to your stomach yet
No, I
at
think
that
that
time?
was like, I was sick to my stomach getting on the plane, going to
Yeah,
the airport. That was the really scary part. But once we got there, it was like, this is what we've been, like, this is what I've been dreaming of for 6 months, or, whatever time I've been planning this. And so it felt really surreal. So we're like, there's PCT signs, which is like, no, and I remember there was these little tiny like lizards or salamanders, and I thought they were so neat because we came straight from Anchorage into the desert, so
right.
everything is really novel.
So,
Um,
if do you remember what were some of your parents' reservations about you? Like they didn't want you to go. What were some of the things
um,
that they were worried about?
just that I was a young woman wanting to travel,
Yeah.
uh, and they, because we're not, they weren't very familiar with hiking. I don't think they'd heard of the Pacific Crest Trail before,
Hmm.
and so and the whole hiking community was kind of foreign to them and kind of to me, but so they didn't and then they're just hearing their daughter bubbling on about this exciting thing, and so they don't have a lot of like, they didn't, I don't think they fully understood. And now that I've done it, they're like, that's really cool, like it's really neat
Yeah.
that you did that, and like they're really proud and all the things. But yeah, it was just unfamiliarity and just the like natural, I mean, you're camping with people like that you don't know, and there's wild animals, and you're not by a
Not
road.
tarantulas.
Yeah, there's no tarantulas on the PCT. I don't, at least I don't think there are. I didn't see
So,
any.
so
Um,
did your dad? Did he pull aside friend X, pin him up against the wall, and have a talk with him? You better protect
no,
my daughter.
we all went out to dinner once, but
Yeah.
that was it. Yeah.
All right. So you're in
Yeah.
California. You guys
Uh
are
huh.
looking northward, and you start these
Yeah.
first steps, and I
Yeah.
and so it's more exciting versus nerves like
Yeah, at that
crap.
point it was exciting. There were scary moments, but yeah, starting to walk was definitely exciting. The first day was a little like roller coastery because we were just so tired. Um,
Yeah.
And our packs were ridiculously heavy.
And yeah, that's right. And
Huh.
like I think at the AT, when you start the AT,
Uh-huh.
there's like where you start, you can like there's a little outfitter, you can weigh your pack, you can get some information. There you're just
Mhm.
sand and cactus.
Yeah. There's nothing in Campo. There's a little gas station with a Subway, and
Yeah.
then there's the big fence that is Mexico, and that's pretty much it.
So you're
Oh.
3, 4 miles in, you guys,
Uh-huh.
I guess it's getting dark, so you decide to camp.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Um,
at this moment, do you realize the heat that you're about to get hit with?
no.
Because I'm assuming Alaska's
No.
not
Yeah.
100 degrees or 98 degrees,
No.
and you're fixing to get slammed, I would imagine, through the
Yeah.
southern part of California.
Yeah, we absolutely did, and we did not know, I
And what
mean, I
was
guess we knew it was gonna get hot, but I thought that it'd be fine.
yeah, and what was your water carry the first day?
Um,
Do you remember, like,
that
3,
was a
4
point of
liters or
contention.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, we had dromedary packs, those big black ones,
yep,
and I think I had a 7-liter capacity and he had, like, 10.
mhm.
Um,
You guys are
which
carrying 7 and 10
well,
liters?
that was the point of contention.
Holy
He
crap.
wanted to carry that much, and I said, "I will carry 3, but I will not carry 7."
Mhm.
And, that was a disagreement that we had to deal with, but,
But when you
yeah,
said
we had the
3
capacity to carry that much, yeah.
yeah, but when you
Yeah.
planned for 3,
Mhm.
do you already theoretically know that there's going to be a water refill day 2
Yeah,
or day 3 or
yeah, there's people, trail angels in the Southern California section, and
mhm,
they cache water on the trail, and it's never a great idea to bank on that because it's not a guarantee, like, people have busy lives and something might come up. But there are often places, and then you can get updates the best you can. At that time, it was on Facebook, but hit and miss if you would have service. But there's there's definitely resources available,
yeah.
information resources about where your water is going to be.
And
But
also
yeah,
being behind the bubble, I think that would be also
yeah,
risky that, probably
yeah,
trail angels are like, "All right, the bubble's passed." And
yeah.
yeah, of course there's going to be people that start late or
Mhm,
laggers, but yeah,
mhm.
probably the attention is for the bubble support
Yeah,
and for our listeners, the
yeah.
bubble is really the kind of the main group that's kind of hiking and pushing through. They're probably range a week or two, you know, and you can literally through social media, through apps, just kind of watch that that group of hikers just kind of make it
Mhm,
all the way up the trail. All right,
mhm.
day 2, the sun
Yeah, day
comes
2.
up. You guys are up,
Mhm.
oversleeping. What's the story?
Yeah. Uh, I remember waking up in my tent and how exciting that was because I had like slept in my tent at home in my room on the floor. Like I
Yeah,
was really excited to use it.
trekking
And
pole
so
tent, freestanding tent.
it was a freestanding tent. I don't, well, trekking pole tents might have been a thing in 2014, but they were like really new.
Yeah, okay,
Um,
okay.
I had the REI Quarter Dome one.
All right.
Uh, yeah, so it was a freestanding tent, which I loved because it was really easy to set up. You'd set it up anywhere. So I guess they did have. I forgot what that. There was a green tent that it was kind of made a triangle, and you would go in the front, and that was what everybody had. But I had the quarter dome, so I loved that tent. I remember waking up in it. We There was a water cache shortly after we started hiking, and then there was the first climb, and I thought, "Oh, good heavens, what am I done?"
Really?
Because I'm trying to carry. I had an 80-liter pack, and it's
80
full.
liter?
Yeah, I had the Osprey Aether 80, and we were
So
like,
first off,
"Well,
hold on. That pack is what, 5 pounds by itself?
yeah,
4 pounds?
yes,
Holy 80 liters.
yeah." But I mean, lightweight then wasn't exactly what it is now. But that was still outrageously heavy. But they didn't have then everything that they have now. But yeah, it was an 80-liter pack, and we
Did
had
you have it
planned.
full to the brim?
Yeah,
Oh my God.
It was full. Um,
80 liters.
because I knew that 80 liters was too big and I was hesitant on buying it, but then we were like, well, maybe if you have it, just because you have 80 liters doesn't mean you have to fill it. But like that's the reality is that no, you're gonna. And coming from Alaska, we had planned on having a bounce box, which is where you make a box at the post office and then you mail it ahead of yourself every time you're in town so you can take
Right.
what you want and then the rest can just kind of travel by way of the post office. But since we went straight from the airport to the trailhead, we didn't go to the post office and
So you
we
had
didn't have time.
everything.
I had my rain pants, my raincoat, everything,
Oh.
my winter hat, everything that I packed for Washington in the desert. I'm trying to carry it up this climb.
So
Yeah.
just real quickly, I have to know,
Mhm.
after you finished the PCT and you got back
Yeah.
to Alaska, did you go
Uh-huh.
punch the guy at REI that let you buy an 80-liter pack? And that wraps up another exciting episode of the Trailblazing Texas podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode today and stay tuned for our next episode where we will pick back up where we left off and guarantee to uncover many more hiking gems and share many more tips to enhance your experience on the trail. Until then, happy trails and happy hiking.